Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Interact podcast. My name is Josh Haynam. I'm the co-founder and CEO at Interact. And today I am joined by Lily Jones, who is the founder at Educator Forever. Lily's got a really cool quiz to tell us about, and I'm excited to dive into your business as well and kind of hear all the background around it. So thanks for being here, Lily. I appreciate it.
So much for having me. I'm excited to talk with you.
Yeah, so let's get right into it. Tell us about your quiz, how you came up with the idea, how you use it in your business, and kind of what the results have been.
Yes. So my business is Educator Forever, where we show teachers a variety of things that they can do in education, not just within the classroom. And so really so much of our business is showing teachers these possibilities. Like teachers think about their career in terms of a school system and like, yes, absolutely. And also teachers are everywhere and are needed everywhere. So much of what we do is expanding ideas. So we use our quiz to do just that. We show teachers what their next step could be beyond the classroom and get them to answer some questions of what they're looking for, whether they're looking to stay in the classroom and do something on the side or leave the classroom entirely, whether they want to do a writing job like curriculum writing or support other teachers like instructional coaching. And so through the quiz, they answer these questions of kind of like their interests, what they imagine their day is being like. And then we give them their results, which show them what we think a possible direction for them could be. And that's been really awesome because, again, it solves the problem of like teachers not seeing the possibilities. And so using the quiz has been super helpful because it's not just me sitting here being like, okay, you could do this, or you could do this, or you could do this. It's getting them to think about like, what do they actually want, what fits them, and then turning out an answer that's more personalized for them. I found people connect to it so much more.
Yeah, that personalization aspect is huge. And I'm curious to hear your perspective on that, being an educator. Like, that conversation's been going on since the beginning of time, it seems. Like,
Yes.
education needs to be more personalized. How have you seen that play out, like, in terms of the way that people engage with that quiz and the feedback that you get from people who take it? Does the personalization land in a way that's different than if you just had like a list of opportunities outside the classroom?
It absolutely lands differently. And I think like, yes, that's a very good teachery question too, because like, yes, all curriculum and teaching experiences ideally are personalized. Like we know from research that people latch on to experiences that connect to their lives. Like if you can't see the reason behind it, you're less likely to be invested in learning it. And so in the quiz version, excuse me, I've definitely seen people be more attached to the personalized version because they believe it more. Like I think especially in an online business, like it can sometimes just seem like all this information being thrown at you and like, is there even a person on the other side of it? And so doing a quiz and getting these results that actually match what you want and filter out the things you don't want, it provides some amount of trust there, I think, because it's like, all right, you said you absolutely don't want to leave the classroom. Cool. I'm not going to give you all these answers that are all about leaving the classroom, right? Like it has this element of listening, even when it's automated. And so I think it absolutely builds that trust and also just gets people closer to what they want. You know, I don't want to give people solutions that aren't actually solutions for them. I want to give them solutions that they can really work with and grow with. And so I think it works both ways.
Yeah, you said two things in there that really jumped out at me. First one was connects to their life. And the second one was what they want and what they don't want. I think if we, zoom in a little bit on what personalization actually is, those seem like two really important elements of it, like connecting to your life and then what do I want versus what I don't want. Because we use the word personalization, especially in the world of online marketing, like it just means like a bazillion things. Um, but in reality, those seem like two core components of it. Is there anything else that your quiz does or that you've seen are the really advantages of being able to do something that's personalized outside of like, okay, it connects to your life and then also gives you what you want or you don't want? Is there anything else there that I'm not keying in on?
Yeah, I mean, I think just highlighting what you just said of like connecting to what they want and what they don't want. But also, I was in a call last night with some members of our community, and they were talking about the importance of just like, who am I and what do I want? Like coming back to these questions as just a human, as like, who am I? What do I believe? And then what do I want? And so I think that just hearing you talk, I was like, oh, I have these questions written down from last night, and they're the same questions, right? And so I think in many quests that we go on in our lives, whether educational or not, like we're trying to connect to who are we at this moment and what do we want? And so I think framing the quiz that way is really helpful. And then I think in terms of what you just asked of like next or anything else, we have an email sequence that comes after the quiz that gives them various blogs or podcasts that I've done or that we've done as a team. And it provides more than just like a one-time result. And so I think that's important too, because some people will be like, yeah, great, amazing. And then we're busy and then we forget about it. And so if it's like, hey, you would actually be a really great curriculum developer. And then 2 days later, I'm saying, why don't you listen to this podcast about how to get started? And then 3 days later, I'm saying like, hey, here's some more resources if you want to check them out. And then 5 days later, like we do have a paid curriculum program. That's like, if you want to go deeper and get some support, but providing that kind of journey rather than a one-stop answer, I think is really helpful.
Yeah, I like that you keyed in on that because, I think AI can sometimes give you a reflection of yourself that you don't always see. And for us at Interact, at our company, what it's keyed in on, which we kind of knew, but it wasn't always like the main thing that we would lead with, was the differentiator between our product and all the other quiz builders is the integration that we have with the email marketing systems, because that very important element that you just highlighted, like people don't want to learn everything right now. Like our attention span's not infinite, so you got to drip things out. And that's really cool. What email software are you using to send those follow-up emails?
We use Kit.
Oh, nice. Yeah, we like them a lot. And that's a really cool connection and integration. And how does the revenue model of your business work? Like how are you making money?
Yeah, so mostly through online courses and programs. Our most popular one is our Curriculum Development Foundations program. So showing teachers how to transition from being a classroom teacher to working in the field of curriculum development. And so it's a 5-week program. We run it several times a year. People get personalized feedback from their coaches on their work so that they actually like have a polished portfolio, and we certify them as curriculum developers. So we want something we can stand behind and say it's high quality. And we have a variety of other online programs, anywhere from building an education business to starting an online course. And then we have a membership community of educators who want to expand their impact beyond the classroom. And so that's another recurring revenue model that we have going on. And that's kind of, I played around with like, is it in the front end or is it in the back end? It's kind of both. Like sometimes people come in at the beginning and they're like, I just want to try it out. Other times they finish one of our programs and don't want to leave, so they join the membership. And then we actually have a whole other side of our business, which is a curriculum agency. And so we work with ed tech companies and educational publishers to create curriculum for them. And then we get to bring on like the best of the people who've been through our program and have a wide pool of people that we've trained and can stand by that we get to collaborate with there.
That's really cool. I like how you have the different aspects of it that serve the different parts of the audience.
Yes,
how are you connecting those different products into the ending of the quiz, the different results of the quiz?
Yeah, good question. So the quiz is really for the teacher side, right? So for our online programs and our membership. And so for basically every result that somebody will get on the quiz, we have a program that we're ideally directing them to. We don't go directly to that program. I mean, we do give it as an option when they have the quiz of being like, hey, it turns out that you'd be a great curriculum developer. Here's some free content. Here's also our paid program, because sometimes people just want the paid thing right away. Like that's one thing I used to think like, oh, we have to just wait and do the paid thing at the end. And then now I'm like, no, some people are just like, no, how do I do this? I'm ready to go. And so having both, and then so it kind of like nurtures them through that. And then they're tagged that way. And so we have all these people, like I'm thinking about, we launch our education business program just a couple of times a year. And it's usually through personal reach out because it's a smaller program. And so sometimes what I do is I look through our segmented email list of people who've taken the quiz and they came out as education business owners. And then I do some targeted reach out to those people, because I know that they've already like kind of self-selected through this quiz that they've done that. So for each answer that they might get, we have an ideal product that we hope they'll start with, and we kind of nurture them to that.
I like that. That's a cool use of the, again, the personalization, the segmenting of the different people as they come in, which is also nice for the people, right? It's like the stuff that you're offering them is really relevant to their interests and what they particularly want and that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
How did you get into this? I mean, I could
Yeah.
probably guess, but like, how did you, how did, first of all, how did you get into it? And then second of all, like, how did you actually do it? Because it's like one thing
Mm-hmm.
to have the idea of like, oh, I'm going to offer, different career pathways for teachers, but it's another thing to just be like, oh, now I'm actually going to go and execute on that. So
Mm-hmm.
how did that play out for you?
Yeah, good question. So I was a kindergarten and first grade teacher for 7 years in Oakland, California. And I thought I'd be a teacher forever, but then kept just being like, oh my gosh, teaching is consuming my life. Like, what is my life like if I'm not teaching? I don't even know. Like, I remember having it be like
Mm,
summer and be like, oh, I have friends and I have things that I like to do. And so I
mm,
kind of had this feeling of like, well, I don't know. Like, I was a lot younger then and I was like straight out of grad school and I had energy and no children of my own. But I kind of was like, can I do this forever? And even do I want to do it forever? Like, I love teaching, but it can feel like Groundhog's Day where it's like there's not really a career pathway if you don't want to be an administrator. And there's not really a way that you even get to reflect on how you've gained your skills or even gain new skills. Like, you do the same thing over and over again for the most part. And so I had my daughter in 2012, and I had been doing some flexible like curriculum projects and things on the side that just kind of like came about. And I decided to really take the leap when she was born because I live in the San Francisco Bay Area and childcare was like very similar to my teaching salary. And so it just didn't financially make sense. I also ideally wanted to spend more time with her. And so I was like, I am on maternity leave. I'm going to make this work. So I started like looking for all these flexible jobs in education and found a job at Teaching Channel, which at that point was a nonprofit making videos of teachers. And I worked with them as an education consultant and got to like see inside the classrooms of all these teachers all over the country, which was super cool. It's kind of like a curated YouTube of teaching strategies, but all like gated on their site. And so that was kind of my entrance into the world of ed tech. And then I started working at education.com, making curriculum, and realizing in both of those places, there weren't that many teachers on their staffs. Like, even in places that have education or teaching in their titles, like, there were a lot of tech people, which, like, cool, but they actually, like, really needed people who knew the education piece. And so I was kind of getting my feet wet in that area. Concurrently, I had all these teacher friends being like, what are you doing? Like, can you tell me about what are you doing outside of the classroom? Like, you're somehow like making enough money, like I was like making more than my teaching income at that point. And they were like, what, how are you doing this? And so I found myself having coffee with people weekend after weekend after weekend, and then friends of friends of friends. And I was like, I'm saying the same things. And so I decided from that to create an online course because I'm like, I'm literally saying the same things to teachers over and over and over again. Let me scale that. And so I started the Beyond the Classroom course, which was our very first online course, probably 8, 9 years ago, something like that. And that's evolved over time. I mean, it really was kind of like a side project that I did. And I was still doing all these other things with ed tech companies and in curriculum development. And then over time, I realized like that became more of a community. And so I turned that course into our membership community because I found that teachers, it's not just, I mean, with anything learning, it's not just like, and then I'm done, I'm moving on. Like the real results come when they're in a supportive community that can grow with them. And so I was doing that. That turned into our membership community. I was also doing curriculum projects. And then maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I started being asked to take on really large curriculum projects. And so somebody asked, like, hey, can you create this whole curriculum for pre-K to fifth grade in all the subject areas? And I was like, yeah, but not just me, like not as one person. And so at that point, I was like, well, I'm going to take on this project and I'm going to bring in other teachers to help me with this project. So I brought in some folks that I'd worked with at different places. I brought in people who had been in our membership community. And I realized that they needed some skills. Like they were great and had amazing education backgrounds, but they didn't have the curriculum skills they needed for the most part. And so I started our curriculum development foundations program from that, of being like, teachers should be creating curriculum, but they need some specialized skills and learning to be able to do it successfully. So like, let me train them and certify them. And so that's how the curriculum program came out of that and became like this flywheel for our curriculum agency there. And yeah, it all just kind of happened from there.
That's really cool. I mean, it makes perfect sense when you say it like that, right? It's like, oh, well, everyone was asking me. So then I offered a course and then it's kind of developed from there. Obviously, we both know it's not that easy in reality. Um,
Fingers.
yeah. What does it look like today in terms of like, I would imagine you can't have coffee with everybody anymore, but there's you still want to grow the business, you want to reach people and that kind of stuff. Like what do those channels look like now? I guess if it's not sitting down and having coffee with people, you have your courses, and that's obviously a way to reach a broader group of people. But what kind of like activities do you do in a week in terms of offering that same kind of help that you always have been able to?
Yeah, good question. I mean, I would say first off that like now I have a team who can help me, so that helps.
Yeah.
But I do try and also have a lot of like personal interactions with people. And so that can be like from initially meeting people, often we offer free classes where it's just like, hey, come join us on Zoom, or I do a lot of webinars about curriculum development and just a chance to like check it out and connect with people. And that's usually me. Like I have a marketing manager who does our social media and things like that, but I like to be like the first interaction in a lot of these things. And then in our membership community, I always lead probably at least one call a week. And then we have various other calls and offerings throughout the week that are led by other people. And so that's been really cool, actually. Like I have a colleague who's been working with me for many years who's going to school to become a therapist. And so she started offering wellness circles for educators that are really like supported on, or they're designed to support educators like whole well-being. And that's like a beloved offering now. And so it's kind of like grown from there. And so I would say in a week, there's a lot of community events, both of people who are within our community and when our programs are running, like I have different lectures basically that I do. And so showing up on Zoom and teaching, but also just connecting. Like last night, it was a network call for our membership community. And I just like checked in with people and heard what they were saying, and they all responded to each other. And so, yeah, that's a lot of it. And then initial reach out is like the quiz. So we run Facebook and Instagram ads to the quiz, to webinars that we do. We have regular emails that go out at least once a week. We send flexible job leads out every Saturday to people on our email list. And so, yeah, various entry points there for new people.
Yeah, I like that. I like that you're still doing, like the conversations with people, connecting with people, even as you've scaled. Sometimes I talk to business owners that don't do so much of that, and kind of feels like you lose connection to what's going on. So that's really cool. I'm curious about the top of the funnel stuff that you just mentioned, the Facebook and Instagram ads to a quiz to a webinar. Is that how it works?
Usually they're two different ads. So the quiz ad goes to the quiz and then to the email sequence from the quiz. The webinars ads go to a webinar from there. So usually we're running like two different campaigns.
Gotcha. And how long have you been running those quiz ads, like quizzes as an ad?
Years. Yeah, I
Years.
would say years. So like they're constantly running and they're successful, like they're more successful than other things we've done. Like we've done many things over the years of like downloads or things like that. I would say quizzes and classes are the most successful for us. And so I think the more kind of active learning experience, I guess I would say, when it's like becoming more personalized in a quiz and it's like I can see myself in it. I think people are kind of burned out about just like downloading a PDF. Like, what do I do with this PDF? And so I think that's really helpful. And then the classes are helpful because it models what they're going to get in our programs too. And so it's like people don't want to generally take a class from somebody that they've never seen or met before. And so it gives them a taste not only of the content, but also just about my teaching style and things like that.
Yeah, I like that you drew that connection there, where it's like in both, you're allowing the person to experience some level of working with you, whether it's through a quiz experience where they can kind of see a little bit behind the scenes, get to know you a little bit, or the class experience with the webinar where they can see how you teach and see how you show up before committing to something. I hadn't thought about it that way, but that does make a ton of sense, especially when you contrast that to something like a free download or a PDF or something where there's not a ton of experience in that, like experience. Like
Mhm.
it's like you
Yeah.
fill out a thing.
Yeah. And it's like, who wrote it? Like, I always like, who is this person? You know, with some of these things where it's just like, I want to know who created this. And I would say that is like a thing that I'm dealing with in scaling too, is like, I've always been the person who created things. Now I have like a brilliant team of people who all have their own expertise and can show all sorts of different skills. But like, how to balance that of still having a face of the business, but maybe that face becomes many faces. Because I think that part is important. And particularly for a business like ours that's focused on something that can bring up a lot of feelings, right? Like a career transition and like your worth as a teacher, like all the things. And so you want to have a supportive guide and know who that person is.
That's a very good point. And we've experienced that in our business. Creating a quiz brings up a lot of feelings because it's like, oh, do I know myself? Who am I? Like, how do I talk? And then you go kind of go down this rabbit hole of like, existentialism, and you want to feel a level of support in that. And I would imagine it's similar in your case, like it's a weighty thing, and people want to feel supported. They want to feel like somebody has their back, actually cares about them
Yes.
accomplishing this thing that feels
Yes.
hard.
Absolutely. And I think particularly in like the age of AI, right, which is like is great for many things, like what we really can elevate in that that's different is that human connection. And so like how do you still provide that human connection with people even when other things are automated and still provide them that feeling of support like that they genuinely need to accomplish their goals.
Right. And knowing like where to jump in, because I'm sure it's the same with you. It's like some people are just wanting to explore. They want to see what you have to offer. They want to take the quiz. They want to watch the webinar. They don't want somebody to pester them and be like, hey, do you want to talk about the thing? But then having the smart automations on the back end, like you're saying, with tagging the people based on how they answer the questions and which result or whatever, doing things like that, where it's like, oh, this person indicated that they want to talk, and then you're available, which allows you to scale, right? Because you don't have to do everything. You have to talk to all the people that don't want to talk yet, but the ones that do want to talk, you can offer that to. And yeah, particularly with AI coming on the scene, we've certainly seen that a lot, where it does make a really big difference to know that there's a person, even if you don't end up taking them up on the offer to talk, just knowing that they are there, I
Yes.
think
Yeah.
is huge.
Yeah. It says a lot, right? Like it says a lot about a company, I think, where it's like you want to feel welcomed and you want to feel connected for most things, like maybe not if I'm buying printer paper or something like that.
Right.
Like for most things that I might be buying on a more personal level, like I want to know that the support's there if I need it. And so I
Yeah.
appreciate that what you just said. Like people might not even use it, right? Like, but just knowing, just having the offer, it's like a friend who's like, "Oh, call me anytime." Like, am I actually going to call that friend anytime? Maybe, maybe not. But it's like I know they're there. I know they're there if I need them. And so I think just making that offer shows a lot about the company's values.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And then, to what you're saying about figuring out how to scale, whether it's like yourself as the figurehead for the whole business, or there's a variety of people on the team that are the known people. Um, Either way, it's just like having somebody that represents the brand. I think this is, to draw an analogy to like the self-driving car world, right? Like I think it's part of why there's such an apprehension in that, where it's like, well, who's responsible if something goes wrong? Even if hypothetically it's better to have a robot car, I want to know who's gonna do something about it if something
Yep.
happens. And in your case, right, like knowing like, yeah, I'm here if something goes off the rails. We give you some advice and it backfires on you, we're not gonna just drop you. We'll have a conversation about it, and that really puts people at ease.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And I would say like all of that is even elevated for teachers. like teachers are all about relationships, right? Like, and teachers are all about kind of like being in it for learning. And so really, I think for our business, like leaning into all of that extra hard has made a difference.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, you have to be right. Like people to circle it back to the beginning. Like if you're gonna make something personalized, you have to have a relationship. You have to know what the person you're trying to teach cares about and what their life situation is, so that you can personalize the information to their life situation. And so you absolutely have to. But then if you have this product you're buying that's totally different, that has no relational aspect to it, then you're like, something is not matching here. It's like one of those pictures where it's like, what's missing from this one? And
Yes. Exactly. Exactly. It reminds me of like, this is again a really teachery thing to say, but like in the classroom, right? There's like personalization and then there's differentiation, where it's like what you were saying of like, I'm giving these different options to people at their different levels. And it's like same thing, right? Like learning doesn't just happen inside a classroom, it happens everywhere. And so like in all of our businesses, every experience that people have, like we want something that's personalized to us. And then from the other side, the company or organization or whoever it is, the person has to differentiate it because every human's different. And so having both, I think, is a challenge and also kind of where the magic is.
No, you're totally right. And at least from my lived experience doing business, where it's like that's kind of the premise of a quiz. It's like it's personalized, but also it shows you how you're different from other people. So it's
Yes.
like, here's your in group and here's your out group. Like you're
Yeah.
in this group and you're not in the other groups, which
Yes.
both of those are like human needs, I think.
Yes.
Sure,
I
you.
think so too. Yeah. It's like self awareness. And like so much of our self awareness is like what we are and what we're not. Right. Like I think that that is a really interesting part of a quiz.
Yeah, and just learning in general, I would,
Mhm.
at least from, my
Yes.
experience learning and, teaching customers over the years, like people want to know both what's applicable to like most people and then also what's unique to their situation. And
Hmm. Yes.
don't
Yes.
have both, it's hard to connect with the content.
Yes. And we also like learn as humans by doing things. And so I think sometimes going back to the PDF example of like just looking at something and passively consuming it, it's like, all right, I can see that, but I'm not connecting me to it. But like going through a quiz or doing an active experience, we get the experience of like, oh no, I definitely don't want that. I definitely do want that. And having a more
Mm.
active role in deciding that, I think is really a better learning experience.
I totally agree. And I've had trouble finding research on that. I don't
Mm.
know if you have found anything, but there is a bazillion research papers with a bazillion dollars behind them on the power of personalization and recommendation engines that are behind the scenes at every big company. There's very little that I've found that shows what you just said,
Mm.
but we've always seen it to be true. What's I guess what do you have any expanded thoughts on that concept of like,
Yes.
if somebody participates,
Yes.
they're more likely to fall, like take an action?
Yes, totally. And I can find research for you. I actually am doing my
Hmm.
doctorate at Johns Hopkins in learning design now.
Oh,
And so, yes, I can
yes.
totally find research for you. I can say not cited research about, I would say this is like active learning, right? Like we want, and in the field of like K-12 education, it's about active learning. We want people to be active in the learning process. It's also is like the learning design theory of constructivism. People construct their own learning
Hmm.
and have better learning outcomes when they're able to construct their own learning. So, like in the classroom, that would be like, I always give this example, it's kind of random, but like in the classroom, it wouldn't be like, I'm going to tell you about evolution. I'm like, define the definition for you. It would be like, maybe I'm going to show you different peppered moths before the Industrial Revolution and after, and have you kind of wonder about like, why do they look like that? Why do they look different before and after the Industrial Revolution? And then that kind of gets you engaged in this idea of evolution before you even know it's a thing, right? You're like, oh, these moths changed. Like, how do they change? Why did they change? And so when we can engage people in the learning and like asking the questions before we even tell them the answer, like then they have so much more, they latch on to the learning so much better. They're able to remember it more. They're able to apply it to their own lives.
That's really insightful, because that describes the pieces that have kind of been missing from the puzzle we're trying to piece together, like the different studies that back up why a quiz does what it does, because it's ridiculous how many like studies there are at every aspect of a quiz. Everyone's like, oh, it's a quiz, it's like simple, and then you're like, actually this is like one of the most complicated things I've ever found in my
Yeah,
life.
totally. Yes,
It's
yes.
like
Yeah. I mean, I think,
condensing a
yeah.
bazillion things. Go ahead, what were you gonna
Oh
say?
no, no. I was just saying, I think what you're doing is like in teacher world, right? Like it's like you're doing so much like learning design, right? And like you're managing all these different things of like the personalization, the differentiation, and the active learning and the self-awareness, which is like social and emotional learning, right? Like it is super complicated. And so yeah, I mean, I appreciate the thoughtfulness in which you're doing it, that it's not just like, and then the answer is B or whatever it might be.
Yep. Yeah. And unfortunately, we do get like ripped off, where companies will come along and be like, "Oh, we have a quiz software, and just make all the questions be like true false." And it's like that
No,
you're missing
yeah, please don't.
99.9% of it if you do
Yes,
that. That's
yes.
not
I
what it
mean,
is.
yes. I mean, I think this is parallel to like kind of what I saw when I was working in the world of ed tech. Like people think sometimes because they've had an experience in a classroom or taking a quiz that they can then create it, which is like naive, right? Like, of course they can learn how to do that. But I think often we don't see the complexities like behind the scenes until we're really thoughtfully doing something.
Yeah, and it's one of those things. Maybe you agree or disagree with this, but it's one of those things where it feels like when you don't notice that it's complex is the pinnacle of the complexity.
Yes, yes, absolutely, totally. Like if it looks easy, right? Like it's like,
Yeah.
I think anybody who's an expert in their field, like I see like a doctor, right, making a diagnosis, it looks easy. They're just like, oh yeah, you have this. And it's like, it's not easy, right? Like I couldn't do that. That would be incredibly hard for me. Or like a car mechanic, right? Like, oh, let me just solve this thing real quick. Like it's because they've mastered their craft and put in all this time learning. And so I think, yeah, absolutely. Things look easy. And then I think just like our human brains are like, oh, yeah, it must be easy because it was easy for them. And then you think about it and you're like, no, they had totally different experiences or training or education than I might have had.
Yeah, that's really profound. Those examples really resonate, because the other thing that I would notice about a doctor or a mechanic is that you feel very calm when
Mm,
they are
yeah,
giving their diagnosis or
yeah.
recommendation. You just you get that sense of like, oh yes, I am being taken care of in
Mhm.
this scenario, whether it's my car or my health, right? And it's kind of the same with like a perfectly constructed quiz experience. It's like, oh, I just feel like this person's taking care of me in this
Mhm.
realm,
Yes.
and I feel calm about it. I don't feel elevated where it's like, oh, I'm reacting because I'm like afraid of missing out, or I'm going to fall behind, or whatever it may be. It's just this very calming feeling of like,
Mhm. Yeah, it's like the power of knowledge, right? Like it's like if we can trust, it's like there's something with like trusting in, I don't know if I love the word expert, but like I do love the word knowledge, right? And so it's
mm,
like it's trusting somebody who has knowledge. And so I think if you can trust that somebody is a car mechanic, right? Like they fixed so many cars before. I've never done that. So you're like, you're an expert in that area. And so that does provide that sense of ease to other people. So yeah, I think that's an interesting frame to look at businesses through too, right? Like what if we, of course we're not going to be experts in everything. Everyone's an expert in some things. But what can we kind of provide? What can we lean into our expertise around that then causes people to have a sense of ease that makes it easier for
yeah, and to be able to connect it back to the life situation of each person, the
them?
actual interests of each person. So then it's not just an expert on a pedestal spewing information. It's here's how it applies to your life and what you want, and also what you don't want. I'm going to not
Yes.
include those parts. And that's
Yeah.
that's like the craft of like getting people excited about learning, right? It's like you
Hmm.
gotta make it
Absolutely.
real for them.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And then it's like it becomes a situation where they can learn, like, right, like they can learn whatever it is that they want to learn to be a quote unquote expert. And especially through a quiz too, right? Like you're helping them have that self-awareness to be like, all right, this is the thing I want to do. Now, how do I get there? Like it's not automatic usually, right? Like if someone's like, oh, I should go do this thing, it's like, well, how do I do it? Right? It's like the start of the journey. And then it's like
Yeah.
giving them the guidance and seeing somebody else who's like done this thing gives them this model of how they might follow that path.
Yeah, I like those two things in conjunction, where it's the guidance and it's the you help someone get over the blank page problem, and then
Mm-hmm.
you also give an example of this is what it can look like
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to reality, and this is what your
Yes.
life could look like, and give somebody a guiding
Mm-hmm.
pathway to follow.
Yeah. I know. I think there's something to it. Sorry, I could talk about this forever. But like I
Mhm.
do think there's something too with quizzes that it's like it expands people's ideas. Like it gets them to think in a diverse way where it's like, even if I'm not selecting these answers for me, it gives me an awareness of like social awareness of what you call it in terms of like social and emotional learning. It gives me an awareness that there are other people out there who have different things that they might want to do, or a different reaction, or a different way of viewing the world, which is also valuable. And so it's like there's something about even taking a quiz when you're getting this like results for you that are personalized that also ideally expands your idea of like, okay, and there are other people out there who have these different things that they might be pursuing, and this might be why.
Yeah, that's another really big thing that you just keyed in on there. Like even with the questions, and there's four different options, there are six different options to choose from. Just seeing those other options and recognizing like, oh, someone else resonates with these other options. I clearly resonate with this one. And then
Yes.
that gets you thinking of like, why do I resonate with that one and not the other ones? And who are these other people that resonate with these
Yeah.
others or have these different outcomes at the end? Like they're being recommended one path, I'm being recommended another path. That that offers a diversity of thought, like you said, like
Yeah.
where it expands your thinking beyond just one thing, which technology, in a lot of ways has just narrowed our thinking gauge, where you'll see more and more of what you are naturally comfortable with or you engage with. You will never see the other options
Mm-hmm.
after a while if the
Yeah.
algorithm gets to know you, right? And
Yes.
so this
And that's
opens it back up.
dangerous, I think, right? Like, I think that's super dangerous. I think that we need diversity in all ways. And that's how
Mhm.
we further our thinking. That's how we further innovation. And so being able to see, like, how interesting it is when people have the same experience, but totally different thoughts behind it, or totally different things they take away from it. I think all of that is really super interesting and important, particularly because we all work with a diverse range of people all the time, like within our work lives and beyond.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think that you have to be able to put yourself in someone else's shoes, and this is just like it's like a gateway to it, right? It's like
Mhm.
it's
Yes.
fun, it's like curiosity inducing. It's not like, oh, you must read this thesis of someone who thinks differently than you. It's just like, no, like this is what they would choose if you ask them what they want to do on a weekend. Like it's not a
Yes.
big deal.
Yes. It's not a big deal. It's kind of like you're not even aware of it as you're consuming this information that there might be other options out there. Yet I still think, or would posit to think, that like it does make a difference. So that seeing that there are other options makes a difference. And I think it also like there's something with quizzes often that there's not a right or a wrong answer. Like it gets us out of this binary thinking where it's like there are many different paths. There are many different ways to think about this. There are many different ways to move forward that I think is helpful for people as well.
Yeah, and it kind of gets lets you try them on, like that book, the Midnight Library,
Ooh,
where the
yeah.
person gets to like simulate all these different futures and
Yeah,
can kind of
totally.
do the same thing with a quiz. You can be like, oh, what happens if I choose this way? Oh, it
Mhm.
says this. Maybe I
Mhm.
would want to do that someday. Maybe not now. Maybe later. It gives
Yeah,
you,
and that we're not like stuck in it, right? Like even if your quiz gives you an answer and you're like, yeah, this fits me right now, it might not fit you in a year. It might be like, oh, this is what I got as my answer. Like I have a thing on our quiz being like, reply back if this resonates or doesn't. And sometimes that causes a good conversation because people are like, yeah, this part resonates, but like this part I'm not sure about. And so I think like, yes, we want to give that like self-awareness of this is where you're at, but also we want to provide some agency in the learning experience of being able to like, you can change it, right? You can go a different path. Like this isn't set in stone.
yeah, it's like that malleability that's so important. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you have a million perspectives on the instructional design aspect of this, but like, instruction that's only one way, you feel like you lose your agency there.
Yes.
With
Yes.
this, you can have your agency back. Like, all right, I
Yes.
want to learn this way. Then
Yes.
2 years from now, I want to learn a different way. And it
Totally.
changes.
Yes. And I think just like you were saying in like tech, like having one narrow way of doing something or thinking about things can be problematic. Like same thing in everything, right? Like we want to be able to see that there are multiple ways to do something. Like that is at its core what innovation is, right? Like it's like finding different ways to do something. So when we tell people it's just like step by step, follow this thing. This is the answer. We take away that like critical thinking and the development of innovation that really at its core is agency, right? It's about being able to come up with your own solutions.
Totally. Yeah. And, while it might feel good in the moment to just be like, all right, here's the thing. I did it exactly the way it's supposed to be done. And then you do it and you're like, now what? Like, I don't know how to move forward from here. Like,
Yes.
sure, I know how to, screw the screw back onto the engine, but I don't know how the engine works.
Yes.
So if it
Totally.
breaks a different way, I have no idea what to do. And
Yes.
that's not very fulfilling, in terms of the learning experience.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Yeah. Well, this was a really profound conversation. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's
It's
been
fun
great.
to dive into this and kind of look, behind the scenes at all the aspects of this, and it'd be fun to have a follow up at some point.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Kind of, especially as you're going through your doctorate and like the research that you're delving up.
Yeah.
Um, where can folks go to go take your quiz and kind of learn more about your business?
Yeah, they can go to educatorforever.com. You can just go to the website and we have a banner at the top that directs you to the quiz. You can also go to educatorforever.com/quiz if you'd rather go directly there. And there you can find our podcast. We have tons of blogs and resources. You can sign up for our weekly jobs newsletter. And it also links to our agency, which is the Educator Forever agency. If anybody's looking for instructional design or curriculum development services, you can find us there.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Lily. I really appreciate this.
Yeah, thank you so much.